It's been another week without a devlog, but we are back, and as you can see, there's been a few additions made to the motherboard overworld for the computer levels, and as you can see down here, there's a 3D level added as well, which I'll go into that a little bit more in a little bit, because I'm thinking, I talked a little bit about this in the last devlog, that the structure that this level has is probably going to be the structure that all the levels end up having throughout the game. Not necessarily that this level is going to be in the game. It is more of an example, a pretty rough thrown together example of what the structure of those levels is going to be. But we'll get to that in a moment. First and foremost, let me actually just like play here. I have the numbers on the left, so you can ignore that for a moment. I've been working a little bit on the movement for the character, and as you can see, I'll just go over what those numbers are, right? Because those numbers are your walking speed. We have this triple jump here, which is 1 jump, 2 jump, 3 jump, and every jump in that triple jump sequence is a little higher than the last. But it also, when you do the double jump, your walking speed increases to 1250 rather than 1000. And then when you do the triple jump, your walking speed increases to 1500. And then if you keep chaining triple jumps, it maintains its speed at 1500. Until the point where your window to go into the next triple jump, which is like 0.4 seconds, I believe, after you hit the ground, a timer starts. And when that timer starts, or where the timer ends, rather, is when your triple jump gets reset. I'll just show you in the actual programming of the... Where is it? Of the player controller, if I can find it real quick around here. So we have this maximum walk speed. We have the jump velocity, so that's 950 going to 1300 to 1750. And corresponding with that, there's just a check to see where your current walking speed is at, so that it never gets lowered to from what it is, only gets raised. Becomes 1000, 1250, and 1500. And then we jump, and then somewhere around here it should enable the landed event, I think, landing event. Here we go, which is not that. Let's see, we need to find a reference to that real quick. Find references should be somewhere around here. Find references. Landed, land, no, land. There we go. So what happens here is reset triple jump is another method that I've made, which triggers the moment your character goes from falling to walking. So when that happens, we have a delay of 0.3 seconds, and if we are still landed, we set the jump counter back to 0, and then we start a loop going from your current walking speed back to 1000 over a period of, I think, like 2 seconds. Yeah, 2 seconds. So that is what has changed in the movement, and that's taken quite a lot of tinkering with the numbers. It feels pretty good right now. I feel like the triple jump might be slightly too high still, but I'll have to figure that out eventually. It's probably going to keep being fine-tuned the entire development process, right? I also made the wall jump a little bit more sensitive for reasons that you'll see in a moment, because I've got an entire section at this point dedicated to wall running. You might have also noticed these golden tubes, and those are grinding rails. Yeah, I made a grinding rail that I can just jump on, and depending on what direction I jump on it, I grind to the end of it. I can just jump off in the middle of it as well, but it does not carry over momentum, because I figured out that's very, very abusable and breaks things very easily. And once you hit the end, it automatically makes a jump for you as well. So this altogether took me a couple of hours to make as well. It's actually a very interesting little process, because what it does is, I can show you real quick here in the blueprint. I need to start organizing these a little bit better. Rail grinding, there we go. Like this is all the programming that is there, and it needs to be organized a little bit better. I haven't gotten to that yet, but really what it does is when you jump on it, it just either has a travel speed of plus or minus 55 depending on a double hit scan. So what it does is when I jump on here, it does a hit scan at the exact position of my character downwards. And then it also does a hit scan, like I think 100 units in the direction that my character is facing downwards. And then it compares those two impact points to the position along the spline. And if the position along the spline for the second impact point is lower than the first, I know that I'm going to need to go from where I'm at the moment back to the start. If it's higher, I'm facing towards the end and I just need to grind like this way. Saying this over here is 0, that's 100. If I hit here facing that way, for instance, my character position might be like 70. If the second hit scan comes back with 68, I know I need to grind in that direction. If it comes back with like 72, I know it needs to grind in that direction. That took me a while to, well, not to figure out. It was a pretty easy thing to come up with. It's just implementing that was a bit of a bother, and still not perfect, because as you might be able to tell, when I jump on it, it actually like sets me into a position a little ahead of where I jumped on, especially when I'm jumping on in the direction from 0 to 100, right? It's not actually 0 to 100, it's not percentage based. And that's mostly because I can show you here. This is where the spline starts, but this over here, there's a little bit of geometry beyond that. And there isn't much I can do about that other than like shrinking this down. But that then starts to impact travel speeds as well. And then even still, you see a bit of a jump. I might look more into fixing that at some point. Honestly, at this point in time, I don't care enough. It works, and that's all that matters. There's also these fuckers over here, by the way, which don't really do anything other than just give a little bit of life to the map. Obviously, placeholder models. But all they do is just every X amount of seconds, they find a random point within the navigation here, and they walk to it, and then they wait a couple of seconds, and then walk to another random location within the navigation. I can show you their behavior tree real quick. Simple roam. It's hardly, like, it uses AI functions, it's hardly an AI, right? All it does is it goes from here, sequence, simple AI task, which is just get actor location, get a random point within a 1500 point radius of it, and then move to that location and finish execute, at which point it waits 15 seconds with a random variation or deviation of 7 seconds, and then it starts over again. So it's really not that complicated, but it does make things feel slightly more alive, especially once I actually start adding my own models in here, which I still need to make. I have a very fun idea for like a little robot design for this. And then maybe I'll also make a couple that have like dialogue that you can talk to or whatever, I don't know. For the time being, it's mostly just to fill up the empty space around here. And then there's also these things that are supposed to be capacitors. Obviously, if your motherboard looks anything like this with capacitors being spread on it in this way, fucking buy another motherboard. But for the purposes of, you're never going to see it from that angle, you're only ever going to see it from this angle, I think it kind of works to reinforce the idea that if you look at a motherboard, especially older motherboards, in like a very macro sense, it looks a little bit like a city, and it kind of invokes that feeling. Obviously, these are also just placeholders. They're going to need actual texturing, and maybe some of these I'll actually put doors into or something, like make them houses or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's everything that I've done to this map in the past 2 weeks, which is actually a decent amount. Then we have in the levels, I can say, but I don't think it changed anything. I've made this, right? This is going to be the structure for the actual levels, which is we have a starting point over here. And you're going to need to get a number of collectibles. And all those collectibles are at the end of a platforming section. So what you do is you platform all the way through here, and then up here, and then around this, and then do all this, and that, and that, and that, and that. And over here you can find, like, I don't know, this is a computer world, so you might be able to find, like, a cable. Fucking, I don't know. And then you can take this platform back, which I'll just do that real quick now. Which is definitely very much inspired by the way you enter and exit the bonus zones in Crash Bandicoot. Having this platform just like move along all the things that you just platformed through. I think that's actually kind of a neat touch. I quite like that. Anyway, so you found the cable. You can jump off here, insert the cable into this wall, and there will be like 3, 4, 5 of those objectives in every single level, making it a lot more 3D platforming based rather than the hallway platforming or the gimmicky 1D, 2D levels that I have right now, but still different from the more open world overworlds. So that's how I'm going to differentiate between levels and overworlds, while still both having them be 3D platforming. Anyway, so the second path that I've been working on is more based on wall jumping. At the moment, I'm just more or less, again, as this is more or less a concept pitch, more so than an actual level that I'm going to be using. They're mostly based on different mechanics. Like, these are based on a lot of different moving platforms, and then a couple of rotating and falling platforms and that kind of stuff. This path is going to be mostly based on wall jumping, and then we might have like a path that's based on like rotating blocks as well. So this is more or less just a tech demo level. But I'll show you going through the wall jumping section, because this is really what caused me to make the wall jumping a little bit more sticky. It used to be pretty difficult to get these things right, and I also need to figure out how to prevent, how to prevent the double jump from kicking in when you don't want to kick it in. At the moment it's a little too sensitive, because if you want to make a couple of small jumps like over here, it's too easy to accidentally double jump while you don't want to. So we really should not have that happen. The way to fix that probably just ends up being you need to have a higher movement speed to do the double and triple jump. I think that's how Mario does it as well. Which, again, when in doubt about like platforming mechanics, just copy Mario, or at least look at what Mario does, because those end up being some of the more satisfying 3D platforming mechanics in the genre. So very much based on Mario Odyssey and Mario 64's jumping mechanics, and I think having a slightly higher floor for when you are able to actually do the double or triple jump is a very good thing. And maybe I need to slow down the acceleration for the character as well. Let's do that live. Why not? How long have I been recording for? Only 30 minutes. We can do a little bit of fucking about before I end of this video, because there isn't a lot more to talk about, honestly. So at the moment, I think where do I have that? Do I have it stored in the actual platforming character? I do. Okay, so at the moment it's 500, which is half the speed of your max speed. So maybe let's make that 650 in any direction. I could very well just like make this a variable that automatically like applies to this all. So when I want to change it, I only need to change one number, but they're all together and it's not that big a deal. So I'm gonna deal with that. Then character movement, max acceleration. Let's actually put the acceleration down like a lot, just to see how that impacts things, right? So that feels like I probably should also replace the print string here. Instead of max walk speed, can I get, I guess, velocity? But that means that I probably just get velocity. Is that, why is my caps lock on? Let's see, is that character movement? Probably, right? Get velocity. I don't know, maybe that is just you know what, get player character, and then we get velocity, and instead we will be printing this out every frame, or every tick rather. Just because at this point it's easier to see how quickly I'm walking, right? So my velocity is like pretty quickly up to 1,000, I want to say, right? We started walking and like within like 3 of these blocks I have 1,000 velocity. So let's just see how in the actual how in the actual hell we end up feeling with these jumps over here. It's definitely a little, you know what, it's actually, no, that was definitely a double jump. It does make the difference between a double jump and a non-double jump a little bit more noticeable, and I keep forgetting that that's, again, that's very much like a beta thing. These blocks, that is, they are going to have different models and textures between the different kinds of blocks. Because at the moment it's really difficult to tell what kind of block you're jumping on, especially when they start moving. Like this one only starts moving when you actually like enter its hitbox, which you don't know. So you probably are instinctively going to try to jump off it if you don't know that. So yeah, that felt a little bit better, but maybe we can actually go down even more with that. So let's put the max acceleration to like 750 maybe. So you're not immediately at your maximum speed. That might just be a little too slow. Let's see, we are 1, 2, 3, 4. It's about 4 of these blocks before we get. I might not hate that, honestly. I might not hate that. I don't think I hate that. For jumping, that's kind of fucked up, though. Because as you could see, you can't really jump out of nowhere. It's also giving me some errors. Like, if we're absolutely at 0, right, and we jump, that's not too, well, like little jumps really don't give you a lot of forward momentum. So I think when we jump, our acceleration has to be higher. So at that point, we are going to go into player controller Roam, and then we go jump. This is our, I need a new mouse. Let's see, let's just put it right here for the time being, and we get our player character, get movement component. No, that's not what I need. I said get movement component, and then we set set acceleration. What the hell was that thing called again? In the movement component, let's see, max acceleration is what it's called. So max acceleration, it doesn't really like to do that. Max character movement. Okay, sure. Set max acceleration, And when we jump, we're just going to set it to 2000 so that we're not limited with our jumps. And maybe this will break things even more. Maybe it'll make them better. That's what we do as game developers, is we just like test that shit. That feels a bit better. Like when we jump, we make a lot more forward progress. But then when we land, we need to set it back to 750. So land. I'm going to need to clear this up. Decreasing walking speed, does that matter? It doesn't matter, I don't think. So set this back to 750 when we land. This is also the kind of thing that you're not going to want to make a decision on just after having implemented it. Yeah, it doesn't really fuck with your actual walking speed too much because it's only about acceleration. So as long as you don't stop moving, you don't really notice the fact that it gets changed, right? So really what you want to do if you like speedrun attack with these mechanics is always going to be, if you start moving, start your movement with a jump because you're going to have more of a boost. But I actually kind of like that there's a, like, you can feel the wind-up time as far as like movement goes here. And I quite like that. So I think this is pretty good to stick with. That being said, it might have just undone everything that I wanted to have here. Because what I wanted to have is a way to like do little jumps. And the little jumps still are kind of fucked. So maybe this didn't fix the issue that I was running into. And maybe I need to look at it a little closer without me recording and trying to also narrate what I'm doing and stuff like that. So I've shown you my progress. I've shown you a little bit of my working as well, which I always find interesting to see other people do a little bit of work. I've done a couple of development live streams. Lately, I haven't been able to really fit them into my own schedule, sadly. But maybe the acceleration is a little too low. Again, this is the kind of thing, when you implement it, it's always going to feel a little off. Just take a little time away from it. A day later, you're going to be a lot more objective on, does this feel good? Yes or no. We're over 20 minutes into this, so I'm going to end the recording right here. Hopefully next week I'll have another devlog video. It'll probably be modeling or animation based. There might be a little addition to this level as well. What I'm thinking right now is I'm not going to replace every single level that I've got with this style level. But I will finish this level. And probably I want to remodel my player character so that it's easier to properly animate and reanimate everything. I want to maybe make that little robot AI dude but before making a new test build. So that's quite a lot of things to still do. So that's probably going to be a couple of months of work still at the rate that I'm going right now. But I've got things to do, right? That's the thing that I've, aside from just being busy with work and other stuff, the thing that I've been running into a lot as well is not exactly knowing what to do and what first to do and what to move forward with. And still the order of things, what am I going to do first? I'm probably going to make the level first. But there's also an argument to be made to do all the character reanimating first, because at that point you have a way better feeling for how the animations play with the physics. And then you can fine tune those and then make the level based on that. Instead of having to change around maybe some things in the level because you made a level based on physics that you're no longer using. So that is a pretty good argument. I'm not going to do that because that would be sensible. And I don't do sensible things. I only do stupid things. Apparently. So yeah, it's mostly because it's easier to get like half an hour of work in on making a level than it is on a character. Like, if I'm going to sit down to remake the character, it's going to be like a 1 to 2 hour sculpting session at the very least, because just doing 30 minutes of that isn't going to give significant enough progress to be worth starting it. And at the moment, I have a real hard time getting a long piece of time in which I can do something like that. That being said, I've been talking here for 20 minutes. If I hadn't done that, I probably would have been able to just do some modeling. So what the fuck do I know? I'll see you all next week or the week after that, depending on when I have a new devlog. See ya.